Dave, why don't we start with the kind of podcast? If you just give me a bit of a background, introduction, childhood, where you grew up, where you're from, and then we could go from there, really.
I grew up by Aldridge, Walsall way. My family were Birmingham, sort of Aston, obviously.
You're a big Aston Villa fan, aren't you?
Massive, massive. I'm 49 years old now.
Yeah.
Probably been in jiu-jitsu nearly 20 years.
Sorry, they've just watched.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Edit that.
Yeah,
Edit. Take one. Yeah, I've been doing jiu-jitsu probably nearly 20 years.
Right.
Did traditional before, Japanese jiu-jitsu, for about 4 years, and then made the switch to Brazilian jiu-jitsu around, so first on Japanese around 99 to 2000, and then I was switched over to Brazilian at around 2003 to 4. That was about that.
And where was that, in Birmingham?
In Birmingham, yeah. Originally I was over Lichfield with some traditional guy, and then I went over to Digbeth, I think when it was originally there, in about, that would have been probably 99. And I was trying to find it all around the area. I could not find it. I was driving around the traffic. I couldn't find it at all. And in the end, I just got fed up and I went home. And then the guys at the traditional were saying, don't leave, stay here. Stay. So I ended up staying about another 3 years. And then I went and found it again. And by then I went and it was Acox Green. So I took a trip over on I think it was a Saturday maybe. And Braulio was on the mat.
Is this Stevie B's?
Stevie B's, yeah, Acox Green. I walked in, there was like in a cage, in a big meathead gym, brilliant gym, Stevie B's. There was a cage sort of with a sign on enter at your own risk. That's what I always remember, and I thought, this is different. And Braulio was on there, but there was a tall Brazilian guy with Bermuda shorts on, a woolly hat, gloves and a scarf.
Was this in the height
This
of
was
summer?
no-gi. This wasn't the summer, this was winter. But that could be some of the brother, yeah. And he just said, come on. And I went on there. He was just off the level. Humorous, didn't quite get the language. I come from a very strict traditional background, so all of a sudden it was this really informal.
What do you mean by that? When you would go to the dojo,
yeah,
bowing?
Yeah, very, very, yeah.
Right.
And there was no real sparring or anything. So that when I went into there, it was literally do this. He couldn't even, his shin, he called his chin. So it was just, I just enjoyed it. I just thought, this is funny. Yeah. This is something about this. And then when it came then, we were straight into sparring. And it was pretty rough. There was neck cranking going on. And it was just, but I just loved it. It was like, this is something new. And that was when the love affair started with it.
Brilliant. So that was 2000?
That was probably around 2003-ish.
Right.
Before that.
Before Braulio, it was Mauricio Gomez. Hodge's dad, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah,
was he still on the scene?
I think he was when I went in 99, I think he was still there. But I couldn't find it. I was driving because I didn't know that part that well, apart from the nightclubs at the time, obviously. I didn't know that area.
So you would kind of be one of the, I suppose, the founders from the UK.
There was a few before us.
Right. What's happened to them?
I think they just moved on. Went to their own gyms. I think there was some in. I know a lot of them just left, went their own way.
Or stopped doing jiu-jitsu.
Some stopped. Some very good guys who we knew of stopped. But I knew some many like Dom people from the old school, from the Acox Green. They just packed in. But I know a lot of the black belts went and did their own thing. Some fall out, some not. I think it's just all irrelevant. It doesn't matter. People go their own way, and you follow your own path, don't you?
So that's kind of 2000 how you got into jiu-jitsu, and you're sort of traditional. Then you found Brazilian jiu-jitsu. What about your childhood? What did you do as a kid?
Football.
Football,
yeah. My granddad played for the Villa.
Oh, nice.
In the 30s.
Same surname as well?
Yep. If you look online, you'll see about him. He played in front of Hitler in the Olympic Stadium, the select team, and they all refused. There's a big story where they were all lined up and they had to play. There was 3 games, I think. You'd have to look at the full history of it. and they were all meant to salute, but they didn't salute, so they got into big trouble. That's the Villa, and there's a programme. My dad had all the memorabilia of it, and it's very big news, and it comes up sometimes on the Villa. Villa
the history, yeah, that's brilliant.
So my dad played a lot of football as well. He was semi-professional player for the Villa as a kid.
Right.
Had operations on his knees at 21, both cartilages out. So he played pretty high level non-league after, and so all through the school I was just trying to be good at football. Not academic, wasn't any good.
Did you go to school in Aldridge?
I did Aldridge Comp, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I just didn't enjoy school. I didn't play up. I didn't skive, or it was just a load of skinheads. We used to all hang around together, and I never really got into any trouble, or I just did nothing. But I wanted to play football. The thing that kept me in school was knowing football was at the end, so I kept playing, and I didn't really do well at school football. All my mates, a lot of them were for the district and things. I never got to that point. But when we left school, I went the non-league route, so I really pushed. The one thing I always had was work ethic. I would work hard, and I was never any good. I remember going over the fields with my dad, and he would just have a bag of balls, and he would hit them balls at me because I was like a centre forward. So he'd hit them balls, and I wasn't very tactful or anything. But when I got a bit older, I turned into a bit of a lump, and I was quite a good enduring. So I ended up signing for Darlaston in the West Midlands League, and then I moved on to Chasetown in the Southern. I think it was the Southern Midland then maybe. So I was only like 18, but I was very into it and I worked hard. So it was all up until that. I got through. Always wanted to get spotted from the scouts, and so it was all because in them days it was different. If you look at the kids like now, they're signed up from when they're like 10. They're on Villa books or Blues books. Whereas in them days it was like you had scouts come out. If you was in the district, you got spotted. If you wasn't, then you had to go non-league. So it was very, very different to what it was now.
So who was it that you ended up playing for in the end?
Chasetown.
Chasetown.
Yeah, and Darlaston, which was West Midlands League. That was rough.
How would you kind of like surmise your childhood growing up?
Good.
Yeah.
I was good and had no real problems at all. I was quite, had a good mum and dad looked after me well. Didn't get into any. I was just pretty level-headed. The only time I wasn't level-headed was when I left school.
So what happened then?
Different life, isn't it? It's the thing I've always said. The football kept me grounded. Right. I'm a big believer. They're all kids. They got to have something to belong to. Do you see what I mean? And I think when I was 16, 17, the football kept me going. I'd go to work, I'd come back. But then you've got the distractions that come in with pubs, girlfriends. All of that came in, and it's how you deal with it. And the football was always the thing. And in them times as well, that the culture around football was different. The footballers were drinking more. It was a different time. So even when I was playing for things like Chasetown Darts, you'd be in the bar after, and I'd be like 17 and we'd be fully at it. Yeah. It was a different time.
It was, yeah. There are some parallels with that, which is bizarre because you think at that level of sport, you would think that it would be more about rest, recovery and longevity. Yeah. When I was in the army, as a youngster, there was a massive drinking culture. Most of the people I served with were all warrant officer, some late entry captains. They said it's completely changed now, but it was not kind of unheard of to, at the age of 18, once you knocked off for the day, so you finished early on a Friday, go into the Naffy bar where pints were 50p and drink until you threw up, which doesn't make sense because it's just such a bizarre thing. So, but it's interesting. You look back at the football back then, the 80s. There are lots of parallels, and that's even in the Premiership. Even at the England team, they were notorious for it, weren't they? Everyone was.
We'd be Mere Green on a Saturday afternoon, and Paul McGrath would be in there drinking. We'd be sitting at the bar with him, drinking as well, and he'd be playing next day, and then go and get man of the match. And it was just, it's that kind of. And the managers who we were with, they were doing it. Everybody would be there. It was just, it was looked upon, And I think the difference is, if you take that sport then away from it, what you're left with?
Functioning alcoholics.
This is what?
Or serious addiction issues.
This is it, yeah.
You're either addicted to the sport or the drink or the culture. Or,
and the one thing, the only time would be the party time would be the end of season, so you got the summer break.
Yeah.
So but when it came back to the September, you'd be back in training, and you'd be more serious again. So it brought you back.
But that's why pre-season was always so hard, wasn't it? Because everyone would kick off for the summer and just completely let go, and then pre-season was always a killer.
It used to kill us, you know, and it was, I was probably until I was about 20, 21 I was playing.
So what happened with the kind of football? How come that came to an end?
I got run over by a car. So I was probably about, I was wild anyway, and I ended up going to Tenerife for about 3 or 4 months. Just jumped on a plane. I worked there, I just jumped on a plane.
Did you work in Veronica?
Yeah.
Did you? Oh my God.
Yeah. And in them days it was different. Again, you didn't sort of get on, you don't book online, whatever. I'd had a split with my girlfriend, and I was like, I've got to go somewhere. So it was 17th of December, I jumped on a plane with about 200 quid. Booked an apartment, and then when it came to coming home, I never come home. In fact, I didn't even have anywhere to stay. I just slept by the pool for about 2 weeks. So you couldn't phone back, I had to phone by payphone. I didn't have enough money to get home. Used no internet.
So what did you do?
I just bummed around a bit, found a few people to work for a bar, slept under the bar, did what I had to do, and made no money. I didn't have enough to get home anyway.
But you got by?
I got by, enjoyed it. It was an experience, you know. Lucky I was still alive when I got back, but...
So was this where you got run over?
No, I came back from there, and then I came back in about March, I think it was. And then I went to go and see a girlfriend at the time, and I got hit by a car crossing a road. Ooh. So it broke my tibia fibia.
Right.
Tibia fibia, smashed up that knee, smashed my elbow up, my head went for the window.
Did you suffer any...
No, I was, well, probably, but knowing me, but there's probably some damage done, I think. But that was pretty bad, and they pinned and plated it. Luckily I didn't break anything there or anything else. The car was a write-off anyway, so...
there you go.
Vauxhall Carlton, they don't make them like they used to.
Was it like that scene out of Superman where he walks out in front of the car?
Yeah, it was a great... There was parked cars and I couldn't see, and it was off an island, and there was a bus, and I walked out and they clipped my leg. And she was going too quick, and they're actually going to do me for it for some reason. Wow. But it was one of them.
Was this the kind of end to the football career?
Well, the doctors then, because I was worried, that's what I thought. I thought, well, I want to get back. So I'd gone a bit off the rail, because I'd gone abroad for a few months in the winter when I'd normally be playing football. And then I thought, well, I wanted to get back into the non-league again. And then the doctor come in and he says, oh, you'll never play football again. And I was like, what do you mean? And I think I could have done. But then you see a lot of these players with breaks like that, they're never the same. Never quite, you know, because it wasn't an open fracture, it was bad. They broke the tibia up here, the fibia down here. So it was like a
oblique.
Yeah,
an oblique.
My leg was over
where it twists.
It was over here in the road.
Was there some protrusions from the bone? Was that?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, there's still bits now.
Sorry to make you relive past trauma.
No, it's just one of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was quite bad. And they said that, and then I couldn't believe that. I was like, nah. And they kept me in a full leg plaster for 9 months.
Wow.
Well, I wasn't in a half leg, I was in 9 months.
9 months. So you can imagine all the muscle wastage after that. And your fitness just would have dropped off.
It was a nightmare. And then that's when I would start to go, not care. So that would be...
What do you mean?
Just not caring in general, whatever, less respect for yourself. I still had a good time, I wasn't, but I didn't have that focus. There was no more... the one thing that my family had done, my granddad had done, everything, even I still thought I'd get there through non-league, it wasn't there. That was gone.
Was that quite a bitter pill to swallow?
Horrible. And I think I carried it for all the years. I think I carried that.
Do you still think you're carrying it today?
No, because I got this.
Okay, brilliant.
That's where, I had offers then to go and work abroad on the building sites and earn good money.
Yeah.
But it was always cutthroat, it was always a bit...
Well, it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
that type of...
no savings from it, just...
Yeah. You're living, I think, from week to week.
Yeah, it was always dicey, it was very edgy. Good money, but wild.
Do you think, did that have quite an effect on your mental health at that particular time?
I didn't think so. No, I just thought I was crazy anyway. I thought I was just a bit young and this is what it is. I didn't think that. No.
How did it manifest itself in your kind of...
Drinking and anything else that came with it.
Right. So substance abuse.
Yeah, getting into trouble. I mean, I was getting into trouble when I was 16, 17, when we left school.
Yeah. But that was
and
more...
I'll be getting into like with courts and police and quite a lot of things and centres I'd have to go to. All that thing would come through as a 16 to 18, but I had the football
to fall back on.
It just kept bringing me in, it kept bringing me back, and that was the one thing that I'd always get. And then that's taken away. And then it was a different world then. Mixed up with a lot of things, really, especially abroad. Well, you get a bit more involved with the football. That was another outlet, so you'd have nothing else to do. And again, I'm always people never understand a lot of the things, but there's a big link with people with belonging. When you're 16, 17, growing up, we had the footballers, we wanted to be the footballers, whatever. You take that away, then you haven't got that. Then you look to what the next thing is, or the man who's got the money in the town, or the hardest bloke, or the one who's got respect, and that's where you start to look.
So there was a bit of an identity crisis going on?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And you always want to be belonging. I mean, I was football when I was a kid, I belonged with that anyway. But when you get a bit older, you start to... And I had nothing else, that was the release.
How did you get past it?
I stopped going for a bit.
Yeah, but how did you make
because
that decision?
You get to a certain stage and you're just like, oh God, I'm fed up of all this. I just got fed up. And the same as when I went to come back from Germany, I got into trouble, and it was a very, very risky part of my life, I'd say.
So was trouble starting to follow you wherever you went?
Anywhere.
And is that...
Anywhere. Yeah, I could go out in Germany. It was only out for I think I was there for 2 to 3 hours. We got off the plane and we was in trouble.
And is that more a reflection of the areas you were going, or
it was
it a
well, no, we were
you?
Foreigners.
Yeah.
We were young English lads. We were going into Germany where people didn't like us anyway, and it just didn't mix.
Were you wearing your Aston Villa or England top?
No colours. But it was just the way it was, and it was very that way to survive. Yeah. Because I think if you'd have done it any differently, I don't think you'd have survived. I really don't think you could have, not in that environment that we were in. And you have to sort of almost put a facade on, and that gets hard to keep up.
A front.
Yeah. After all that.
Because that's essentially you pretending to be somebody you're not, just to survive, I suppose, or to get.
And it doesn't make you happy. Doesn't make you happy. And I got out of the building in the end. I was like, the only way I can get out of a lot of this is if I get off the building sites. Right. Because all the building sites I was on with everybody, we'd be in the pub at the dinner time, and it was just on the night, and then it'd go more. Then it'd be the weekend, and then it'd be trouble, and it'd be the only way I could do it was to get off that. And that's what I did. I even had an offer to go to New Zealand and work with one of my mates who I worked with, but he was a drinker. And he said, you can come, and I could have had a great time. And I was like, nah. So I just literally cut ties.
It's hard to walk away with those traps, the money. It's quite, it's quite alluring. When I left the army, the first thing I went in, when I left the army, I picked up an injury with my knee, and I wanted to be a physio because I'd had physio in the army. Yeah. So I wanted to get into it, but I couldn't just bounce straight into university. I had to go back to night school.
Okay.
And to go to night school, I had to work it, get some money behind me. So I did my resettlement training. I became a crane driver and a banksman. So I worked Channel Tunnel Rail Link. I worked down in London in Canary Wharf. I even went over to Ireland and worked back in Ireland during the Celtic Tiger, where there are cranes everywhere.
The big ones.
Big tower cranes, yeah. I mean, I remember I got sacked from a job one Friday because I fell asleep in the crane. And they were calling me for 20 minutes and I was asleep with the radio off and the concrete had gone off, basically. So I got sacked. I came down the crane, I phoned my boss, I says, I've been sacked. And he went, I've got another crane for you, get over to the side of Dublin City in an hour, there's a crane waiting for you. The other driver's been sacked. And all they did was swap the drivers over. But
they had them in all them cranes in Germany. They had to have a crane even if it was one house.
Yeah.
It was really they just had like little. And if you went on the site and he was there nobody there, we'd do it. Now I'd never done. Yeah. You know the ones with the
the remote.
The remote.
Cranes. Yes.
I did that the one day, and I nearly took 2 carpenters off the roof.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. That's when it was just like, oh, you go on it, what? Yeah. And all of a sudden, that big tub of muck nearly knocked the...
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's like I went from being in the army super fit and active and having an identity, and then suddenly it was like, you know, in construction. I mean, at one particular point, I was earning so much money. Like back then, I mean, we're talking 2003, not long after you got into your first thing in jiu-jitsu. I was on a crane in London and I was picking up about over $1,500 a week. You know what I mean? And it was like a lot of money back then. And you know, fair enough, you'd pay your digs, and then I'd drive home back to West Midlands for the weekend. But the money
lifestyle, isn't it?
It was so boring. You know, and it was like, well, I'd been so active, and you know, and then to sit in a crane. But I was up there with my anatomy books, get ready to go back to night school and study, and so it wasn't a means to an end. But I understand definitely you can fall into that trap where you get paid so much money and you just think.
I never saved a penny. I was 1992, 3. I was probably earning £900 a week cash in an envelope.
Wow.
Cash.
Yeah.
I never saved anything.
I don't think the taxman cares about it.
No.
It was in a different country.
I never save. I might save. I might think, okay, I was out there 9 months. I might say, okay, it's like Christmas coming. I need to save some money, so I'd save lots of money, about 3,000. But then I'd jump on a plane to Tenerife for 3 or 4 weeks and just
gone.
Yeah.
So when you left all that and you got into jiu-jitsu, when was it that you knew? Like this is like, how long did it take you to get your black belt?
Oh God. When was it? It was 2000. Was it 13, 12? I think 13, mid 13.
13 years.
Yeah, no, mid 2013.
Oh, okay. Well,
so that would be
so that's 11.
10 years.
Oh, 10, 11 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was. Well, we didn't even want it because I just wanted to compete.
Right.
So it was always about winning, whatever you could.
Well, we touched on this earlier, you know, in regards to competing, because you were saying, oh, did you compete? Oh, I've competed a few times, but I haven't won a match yet. How did you get past that? What would your advice be?
For me, it was like when I first did jiu-jitsu, and when obviously I'd stopped the job, and I was doing little bits still on the sites, but I knew when I started to do it, I thought I need something to go into that gives me the same, because I packed everything in, all the wild, so the drink, everything. Everything was gone, and all my friends who were gone, so I left myself on my own.
Because you left the drink behind.
I left everything.
You left that social circuit
I left
behind.
everything. You had nobody.
That's just very common, isn't it, when you cut that off?
Yeah, I never went out for 12 months.
You're essentially ostracised,
I was stuck in this flat for 12 months. But I used to travel to Acots Green, and whatever I did, I used to just keep on, just keep turning up. But when I first started, I did, I think, about 4 classes, then I competed. Yeah, I wasn't the brightest. I just did, it was about 2 weeks, I think I did, and they did a tournament in Birmingham somewhere, and I just put my name in. And I thought, well, I can go in there and I'm not going to get arrested. That was all. That was my only thought. I thought, well, I could go in there, and it's a good wake-up call and somewhere to start.
Yes.
For
like a
humbling,
baseline.
Very humbling, really, as well, because you always think you're this and that. Whenever you go in there, and I thought, well, I didn't get on very well in the training, and I thought, so why don't you throw yourself in? Do you see what I mean? And really understand what it's like to.
Yeah.
So I did, and I actually won the first fight. I don't know how. There was. You would have had more skill set outside the chip shop on a Saturday night. It was just a blur, but I won. And then I fought somebody in the final, because it was a silver I got, and he knew what he was doing. And then it was like, oh, it's all right. So then I did it again, and I just kept, probably every month or whatever, I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
Just kept doing it. And I just thought, just doesn't matter what you do, as long as I was there, and it made a lot of sense for me. Anxiety, which I didn't think I had, but obviously I did. It always made a sense to me that I'm allowed to be anxious here. So when I went there, that nerves, that lack of sleep or whatever, it was thought, well, that's what you're meant to feel. So it made a lot of sense for me. It made a lot of sense. And for me, it was just keep going, fight anything, like no-gi, gi, whatever, because in them days was doing no-gi straight off. So if that's what you mean, is that what?
Yeah, of course. Well, it doesn't matter what I mean, it's how you interpret it, which is the main thing. I mean, I suppose, so what you're saying is essentially just keep going and expose yourself to... Really
put yourself in.
I think I'd been training 6 months and Hereford came along and I entered myself in Hereford and I just went by myself. I didn't tell anyone I was going. And I didn't tell any of my coaches. Nobody else went from my gym, so I just rocked up, and I had to go against the same guy. I had to lose to him twice.
That's hard. I don't like fighting the same person.
I had to lose to him twice, and I remember it was my first kind of competition, and I remember him, and he was we were the same weight obviously, but he felt so much stronger, and I remember him grabbing hold of me, and I just thought, oh my god, this isn't like rolling down the gym. This was, and I was like, and I think within a couple of minutes I was about 16 points down, and I was like, the humiliation, I was like, this is awful. And then a switch clicked, and I was like, really try, and I escaped a couple of his submissions, and eventually he caught me. I think it was with it was some sort of choke. But it was at like 4.5 minutes. So I'd done all right. I thought, well, I've survived. I'm not dead. And then they were like, oh, you got to fight me again. You got to go again in about 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, for God's sake. But he was even quicker that time. And that was the most, it was the best and the most humiliating experience for me. Yeah. Because one, nobody got to see it. But I did get it recorded and sent it to my coach and said, where am I going wrong? So, yes, I did get a bit of feedback off it, but it was embarrassing because of how it ended up, but it was really good because I went by myself. I just thought, but I'd competed previously quite a few times in boxing prior to that, and I thought that would get me through those initial nerves, but I don't think you can ever stop the adrenaline dump.
No, never.
Or the, even at the higher level. No. Would you agree?
I've never ever. I always have that the same. In fact, I don't think that I've ever really fought a competition match with more than 3 hours sleep.
Wow.
Ever. I always suffered with that anyway. And when it was the fights, it'd be even worse. And I literally would have 2 to 3 hours. And sometimes I'd be so tired, I think I have to get through these first 2 fights or first fight as easy as I can, because if I go then I want to do the open weight and I won't have the energy if I've got 3 hours break. And it's literally that edgy, that feeling. But I was allowed to be. I was meant to be.
What do you mean?
Well, everybody's nervous.
Yeah.
Everybody's nervous. So every time when you can't sleep or you get anxiety or you have troubles like that, you're always angry at yourself. Always angry at yourself. So when I'd go there, I thought, well, this is it. I'm meant to be like this. So for today, I'm okay.
So you had no trouble in accepting? No, I accept this is my physiological response. This is my.
And every morning I'd be with, say, might be with some like Professor Nathan or something. I'd wake up and I'd wake up with that stress. Oh God, I haven't slept. And then Nathan or somebody go, like, well, you never sleep anyway. And I go, yeah, I know. And you go, well, shut up. Then I go, oh, all right.
Was he competing as well?
Yeah. But then I'd be the same thing, and I'd be like, well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I'd go there and I'd do really well.
Wow.
And then I'd be exhausted. Like
through the mental fatigue.
Yeah, and it'd be a big come down, and but it didn't stop me.
When you say big come down, how'd you get over that? What do you mean?
I'd be terrible the week after.
What do you mean?
Just
feeling terrible.
Terrible. Or? Yeah, really low.
Even if you won?
Yeah,
or?
Doesn't matter.
Wow.
Just all week. I didn't want to train, or I just terrible. It's just the way it is. And then at the end of that week, I'd come back and I'd go back again.
So what goes up must come down, and that's
just yeah.
Okay, so it was such a high climb to be at that peak level, astute, kind of switched on, all the physical aspects.
But I think all through my life I've been like that. Whether it's wild times, do you see what I mean? I think I'm just on that ride.
Roller coaster up and down.
I think that's it. So there's a balance, isn't there? And this is the key.
So do you think jiu-jitsu gives you balance?
But I can have too much before. So that would become, especially when it becomes a job, you start to do so much of this and get up, and I still train like an athlete. So I'm still morning, get up, have to do that, have to train, drill, have to, and there's sometimes you need that. Well, then in comes the football. That little break.
Right.
That little break. So when you was at work and you go to the football for that release, it's become that again.
So has this now transitioned from hobby to livelihood?
Since the day from the minute I stepped through Acott's green door, I was looking at ways to change my jobs, to train more, to train full time. Because even though I was late, I was probably 30 something, early 30s, I still thought if I put all my effort in, I want to fight the highest level I can and get to where I can. And if that means fighting whatever division, I've fought all divisions, all age group divisions, even now still. It's something I have to strive for, to train full time. That was all I ever wanted. I never got into jiu-jitsu for money. I never set up when I was starting to teach. I never set up for that. I just want to be on the mats all day.
I don't think you can.
No.
Because if you strive to have it for the money, then people
wasn't.
will see through you and they will think, oh, he's just in it for the money. But if you're in it for the passion and the...
It was, for me, I only thought I need to fight, to compete, to keep my head focused. I needed that. I needed something. And when I played football, I used to do that. And in between, I wasn't very good at a lot of things, in fact nothing. I was good at laying a few bricks, or I was good at carrying a hod or digging a hole, very good. But I had nothing to be really, that I was proud.
It's such a responsible role now, being a professor, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu professor. How do you kind of manage the responsibility of being, well, essentially that's your name up there, so you're essentially the figurehead and the front for this club, to Gracie Barra, which is even a bigger, more international team. How do you kind of cope with that responsibility?
I didn't even think about it before. As long as I was on my mat teaching and training, then I was fine and competing. But then all of a sudden you realise that, hold on, I've done a lot of years here. I've got to start maybe looking at it as like a business as well, but without losing that connection
or authenticity.
Yeah, because I tried to sort it out. I thought, right, I put a shirt on and I started to do books and things, and like what normal people do. And I was doing that, and then I was off the mats a lot, trying to get it sorted, and it just got overwhelming. And then I'm thinking, well, I need to do this in reality, to do this, to get to... And I'd never thought that before. I just thought fight, train, compete. So I've got people working now, obviously, on helping with all the admin and sort of sorting out the way it should be and getting things in order like it should be. And then I thought, oh, I won't fight anymore. And I was like, well, I will.
Is it important for you to compete and show your students?
I want to keep developing. I want to learn. And I seem to, like I said, I could be taught a technique and I can't get it for 3 or 4 years. And then I might do it 3 or 4 years later. But for me, if I go into a competition, I can test what I want. To see, like I did one, an example. I was trying to pull a certain guard in tournaments. So I thought, well, I'll try this. And I did it a few. I did it at the Abu Dhabi World Pro. And I thought, well, that's quite a good place to try it in. And I did all right. But then I thought, I need to go now and pull it differently. So I booked up for Ireland. So I thought, I'll go to Ireland for the IBJF. And I can't do anything else but pull this guard, which was deep half at the time. So I thought, right, I'm going to go in with 2 collars and pull it and really go for it. So I went there all the way, stopped the night before. My whole aim was only focusing on pulling that guard. I wanted to win, but my aim had to be to pull that guard under pressure. So I pulled it and I got to it. The first one I got armbarred on this arm, and the second one I got armbarred on that arm. But I didn't care. Because I got what I wanted to go for. It wasn't a world championship. It wasn't a thing. I needed to go in to see, and I pulled the best guard you'd ever seen. But I got armbarred with the best armbars you'll ever see as well. So it's that kind of mentality
that's kind of another level of cerebral thinking, really, where you just think, I'm not really bothered about the outcome. No. The only thing I've got to do is, you know, this. Yeah. So when we rolled before here, the only thing I was thinking was just survive for as long as possible. Yeah.
But that's not necessarily. You can't let it get too negative, though. Do you see what I mean? You've got to like I went there and I thought, I'm going to try and win. Right. But if I can get to that first and solid, because when I saw somebody who was winning, I said, oh, you pulled that really well. What happened? I'm like, doesn't matter now. Yeah. I've done that before as well. I remember going to one. I used to pick people. If I thought, I can get into that, I want to fight that guy. And there was I think it was a Masters in London somewhere, and it might have been the Jubilee. There was a Jubilee on, whatever last Jubilee that was. And the trains were packed, but I jumped on a train. It took me 4 hours or something to get there. And my only guy, there were two guys who were really hard to jump guard on, so I jumped guard on both of them. But I won that tournament. So I literally got off the train, went in, jumped guard on both, won. They said, you're doing the absolute. I was like, no, I'm going. And they're like, I've come for what I wanted. I jumped on the train, went home. So that's that. But I only went there because I wanted to develop, knowing that I could do that in a competition. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But I can understand it. I just think there comes a point, I suppose this is the levels you see and the time that you've been doing it for. You've got the confidence to go in and do something like that. If I try something that doesn't work, it's almost like revert back to get A game.
Yeah, I still do that. Yeah. But I started to tell myself, because I went through a stage, I think 2016, 15, I just never won a match for 12 months, not even a match. And I used to really and I was putting so much pressure on myself. And I thought, why am I doing this? What am I doing it for? You know, I've got to win a world champ, I've got to win a world masters, or I've got to win and I was and when I started taking the foot off that pressure, I did go and win a European masters, like international. Cool. And it was when I started to try different, I think that sometimes I was so winning, when I was winning a lot of things, I think if I fought that guy now, I'd probably lose. But I was never going to progress then if I didn't change something. If I stayed in that mindset of doing just what I was doing, it was just to win by advantage there was no progression. And then no enjoyment. Right. Because it has to be enjoyable.
What's your opinion on what kind of, I'd say some of the more American or stateside coaches who say that with kind of a big club, you essentially water down, or what's been taught is watered down?
I think that can happen, obviously.
There was somebody you know who I'm talking about, was on a very prolific podcast not so long ago, and he's a top coach, and he basically was having a dig at this club, saying that the levels and how their system is, it kind of waters down.
I mean, I'm not sure that's true, because at the end of the day, the bigger it is, and the more availability to coaches they've got, I think what a lot of these clubs do is that we're close to the source anyway. I'm very close to the source, so everything I teach has been handed down to me by people like Braulio, Victor Octavio, all the coaches that were in Birmingham, Norby when he was there, they were all under Braulio. Everybody passed it down, and we're very fortunate to have a very good level. But you can still only teach people so much, because when they get to a certain level, they know what they want to do, and they look at all the online learning now. Like when I used to come, I used to teach just certain, this is what we do, this is the blueprint for everyone. And the more I see it now, I think, well, there's that much information. People are coming in with their own things anyway, and I think as long as you've got a guiding and a set of people around you,
a
curriculum, and also the instructors and the team sort of around
ethos,
you. And whoever you go, you'll find whoever you need for that person.
Right.
So I think as a whole, as jiu-jitsu's got bigger, there is more schools everywhere, so there has to be an element of watering down, doesn't there? But I still think that all what people need is there.
How much do you think it's changed from when you were first learning it?
Completely. I mean, I was
Did you learn the self-defence aspect first and then go
I
into
did
the
it more
sport?
traditional. I was like, we did a bit, no, because then it was more sport.
Really?
But we were doing pretty much, I was doing enough self-defence with some of them guys neck cranking me, and you know, a lot of MMA guys around then. And they were all fighting MMA, so the jiu-jitsu was different. And it was tough, you know, it was very, very tough. And the level that was in the gym, you know, we had all these tough guys, Birmingham MMA lads and people. Then you had Victor was here, training with him every day. You know, Octavio Souza come over for a good, got to be 12 months, maybe more. Homolo Bahal was there for a while. Other black belts were coming over, who were brown belts, black belts then, but they were on the scene then. And people would come down to Birmingham to train. Like your Mike Bisping, I remember training with him when I was a white belt. He was in Birmingham. Really? He was an ACOS Green trainer.
We're so fortunate that Birmingham,
yeah.
like, of all the places,
it was,
Mauricio Gomez could have gone after he left Japan.
Yeah,
to Birmingham.
Yeah. Well, all the guys who were in there, they was all in there, and people who were quite. Ross Poynton was there for a bit, I think. There was quite a few MMA guys went, and because they all wanted to come and train with Braulio, and obviously there wasn't many of it. So the difference of it then was just, when I look at it, you might be learning one technique one night, one technique another. So it wasn't, the curriculum wasn't set. So we were learning a different jiu-jitsu. Wasn't so advanced, well I say advanced, but modern. Yeah. You know, so I think it has changed, and the whole jiu-jitsu itself has changed. And at first it was a bit of a shock because it's not what we came from. But I remember holding back, thinking, oh, you shouldn't do this, or you don't want uniforms. But then you think, I remember sitting with Braulio once, and he was saying nothing stays the same forever, and it doesn't. And I think it's the end of the day now. I embrace it, because if I just stuck in that old route of, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, you're never going to progress. It's the same as like I was doing when I was competing. At that stage when I was winning, I wouldn't change anything. Yeah. And then it's like, well, it's going to be the same here.
How important is it for you to remain loyal to Braulio and to Gracie Barra? Because there's been other, let's not beat around the bush, there's been other people who have been with him for years, got promoted, and then, you know, I suppose life goes on, politics, people go their own way, and, you know, stuff happens, whatever.
I think that it doesn't really make any difference to me. That's the thing. It's like, when I first did it, we were Gracie Barra. Whenever I've competed, it's always been Gracie Barra anyway. So I'm not really...
Because that's the place in Brazil. Barra was the place in Brazil. Yeah.
We're not, obviously before it was just Braulio, more Braulio sort of thing, but I still teach in Birmingham, you know. I don't see any benefits, and it's just, who your teacher is your teacher. Braulio's my teacher, so I'm quite happy as I am. You know, that's what people seem to be, always searching for something, and is there any need? I just don't see any need. I'm quite happy as I am.
Yeah, I think maybe not so much my own journey, but I think some people, you know, personalities and what you want to get out of it, obviously, you know, can set you in a path of essentially, you know, and as well it's the commitment. So, like, if you know the best teacher in the West Midlands is in Birmingham, and you live, you know, got distance, and you've got family, it's got to be hard, isn't it? So that's where you need to weigh up.
But you've also got to look at, like, when everything changed my life, and when I first went to Birmingham, even if Braulio had moved, really, it was his humour, his the whole thing about him that attracted me to it. Yeah, it was I look for characters, I like characters, I like that little bit different. You know, Braulio was funny, it wasn't what I'd seen within martial arts. And that changed it.
They say that though about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in essence, isn't it? It kind of took the book on how you should teach martial arts, ripped it up, and just went, well, we're going to do it the Brazilian way.
But then all of a sudden it was like curriculums, and it was all very regimental, and it was like, but then I have seen the difference, like, is in the levels. Like, if we didn't really have like a fundamental, it was a foundation, it wasn't really the same. Now you bring people through from scratch, and they say, oh, one size fits all. You get a lot of that mentioned about certain jiu-jitsu gyms and things. But there is that element of when people start, you do need a base of something, real basic, just to give you that base. And I used to be like, well, I'll give you that till blue belt, then a blue belt, I'll give you this. Now it's sort of, you'll get that fundamentals out of the way, and then the curriculum teaching, and then people find their own route, and you just guide. And I think, and you've got all, like if I've got people wanting lapels here, and I'll say, we'll go nip up Birmingham and see Jacob. Do you see, you've got that, that wealth of knowledge, you know, so the level of fighters now I think is very high.
It's like John Homer, he was the head coach, he is the head coach at Aston ABC. He would always used to say, teach them the basic fundamentals of boxing, and then individual flair will come through.
Yeah.
Do you know, and then they will take their own path. As long as I can teach them the basics and the foundational fundamentals, that personality of that person will develop how they end up boxing.
I think a lot of people think that because there's curriculums that they get like fundamental, and then they're taught what to do till purple, and they're taught what to do. I think that's what they vision.
Right.
And they think when they get to black belts, they're all like robots of the same, but it's not.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like that. If you look at what Braulio's style is, we look at what the other styles of guys do, but they're not all the same.
And that's very much, your jiu-jitsu is determined by your personality, your demographics, or your height, your weight, you know,
insanity.
how you move, your level of mobility, how you get into it, like what age you get into it, how flexible are you? You know,
I don't think I was ever flexible. I don't think I was even born flexible. It's just one of them.
So let's, where do you kind of, I mean, you're 49 now.
Yeah.
You've been doing it a long time. Where's the club going? What's the plan for the next kind of few years? Or you've gone through a very difficult time with COVID.
Yeah.
How do you get?
It's just to get back now and get through this now, just to survive really. Obviously I had the worries of it all, but I only moved 20 metres down the road, so I'm literally walk out here and I'm 20 metres there, so I'll just come in and go. I want to build it up, get the students where I want it to. I want to get it where it needs to be, because I've been here a long time. And I mean, this gym, when I originally started this one, when I packed, because I was packing in jobs all over the place, care work and all things. And when I came to this, I was teaching twice a week in a little kickboxing gym. So, and that was under Steve Fan, who's passed away. And I took over him when he was ill. So I did it twice a week. And when I got this, as I said, it was always like a bit of a, you know, we'll just build it up and I'll compete. So it'd be nice to get it where it should be. Because I was one of the first ones, Gracie Barra's obviously, after Birmingham, I think Neil maybe.
Neil Simpkin.
Yeah, was it Gracie Barra? I think he was, yeah. Hales Owen was after, Wolverhampton. We're all roughly around the same time, I think, but so I want to get it to where it's going to get to now. Get them numbers in, and I've got a lot of things. I'm in at the local school. I got into there, but obviously now that's a little bit wayward. And I always want my big goal really is to get into. I still want to compete. I'm still going to do that until I drop. But the main thing I want to get into because I come from a background of social work and stuff as well. I want to get into the looked after kids, the disadvantaged kids, and I want to I've got a lot of contacts within social services, so I want to bring jiu-jitsu to that.
Brilliant.
And that's if anything, one day maybe even like an education unit with like art teachers and but jiu-jitsu as well.
Well, I've always said if there was jiu-jitsu in schools or more kids do jiu-jitsu, there wouldn't be any bullies.
No. No, they would. Well, I did it in the school. Me and one of my students did a demo, and we did that. And then there's about 20, 30 lads there. Oh, we'll come. We took names. Nobody turned up.
Showed up.
Nobody showed.
It's a shame, isn't it?
One lad walked in. There was a 13-year-old girl, and then a 110-kilo Romanian guy walked in. He was 18. That was the balance. And all he wanted to do was pull my head off. So it was like, this isn't working for now.
Yeah.
But we've got to try and work it, I think.
Let's finish up.
Yep.
What kind of advice would you give? So two different type of demographics coming into the club.
Yeah.
You've got a young, timid kid,
Yeah.
Boy or a girl, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Maybe a teenager suffering with kind of, maybe some anxiety, maybe getting a bit of grief at school.
Yeah.
And then you've got the older type person What advice, or how do you manage that younger person as they come through?
We have quite a bit of that. Yeah, we have quite a bit of that. Also have a lot of kids come in with learning difficulties as well, like with autism and things. And so you have to keep your eye out for it. But I'm pretty good eye from the work I did before. The main thing I do, the first thing I always want to make them ever do is make them feel they belong.
How do you do that?
Just be nice. Just be nice.
Just be you.
Just be you, yeah. I don't want to be a strict thing. Have a laugh with them, be whatever, do whatever, don't hold back. I don't want to be something I'm not. I don't want to pretend I'm some kind of Instagram influencer or, you know, I'm not about that. I don't want that. So I'd make them feel just nice to be here. They want to be here. And then just get them into it slowly. I wouldn't worry them with self-defence. I think when you start saying to them, like, oh, if somebody does this to you, I think that frightens the life out of people. So I wouldn't even go that route.
That's good. That's really interesting. That is.
Yeah, I never. That's the one thing I didn't like about traditional. So
you're pre-implanting the potential dangers already, which is making them think. Yeah. God.
When I did. Now there is some very good traditional guys, and a couple of them train with me here, and but they're very open-minded. You see, and obviously they're doing both. But the ones that when I was with some, they were like, well, if somebody does this to you, if somebody does that to you, if somebody goes, it's like you're waiting for World War III. You're walking out there with some kind of fixation in your head of like, if somebody does this, I'm going to. You've already lost.
Spider sense going off left.
You've already lost because you're so much thinking about it. Yeah. You wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, well, it's almost like putting that energy out there. It's going to find its way back.
Just walking around, it's going to go. And I think that's what. I'll just make them enjoy it. Yeah. And I think down the line you can work with them that way. I wouldn't have any specific plan like that. I'd just get them integrated, enjoy it, make them laugh, you know, and then build that that connection with them.
And then the older kind of
the same.
Yeah, just the
same. I don't see. You know, obviously, and reassure them, and make sure you give them that extra little bit. You go that extra bit further to show them what they can do, what they can't do, what's not expected of them. Because if you just, you know, they're not going to be able to start barrel bowling everywhere. I don't think I ever have. You know, so that's what I would do, I think.
Has there been a situation where you've had to ask someone to leave the gym or put someone out, or?
Not really. Don't think so. No.
Have been challenged?
Not such. One person-ish, but not really challenged and such. Just very rude. You get that. I think people just think because they pay you that you're just a service.
And was that like somebody who'd not been doing it that long, or?
Yeah, not really. Yeah, a couple of years with me though, man. Oh, right. Yeah, I've had that. But I think I've grown from it all now. I used to lose my temper afterwards. I'd be thinking, you know, how can people, you know, because in jiu-jitsu, just because it's jiu-jitsu doesn't mean people don't be rude or cross you. Yeah. You get quite a lot of that, but I just thought I used to let it get to me because I've put sometimes it'd be people you've put a lot of effort into and gone that extra bit.
Does it feel like a bit of a betrayal?
Just terrible. Like I used to be, and again it'd bring. I think I've done all this through there to get to here, and then I've done that, and I used to be, and again I've sat with Braulio because I've had a few times when I've just been with him, and he's put me right on a couple of things. Just because sometimes you just need that reaffirming of like, you know, and Victor as well, and also like Professor Nathan I speak a lot to, and you literally have to get to that point where you think, right, it's just business. Yeah. But I think when you bring a gym up as a personal small gym, and you're on the mats every day with your student, it's more than that, and it's how you take it. And for me, I don't let it get me now. I think that's the time for it to end.
I think this is a good time to end. Dave, thank you so much for your time. Sorry, Professor Dave, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for making me feel so welcome at the gym. I really enjoyed the role and the coaching and the teaching and some of the feedback. And so anybody that's interested in the Tamworth area, they can just get in touch with yourself, come on in. It's a very welcoming, open book, and hopefully they'll enjoy and get committed to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.